Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven VC podcast. Thrilled to have Neil Grunberg on the show from Toronto. I won't say all the way from Toronto, but I say New York's one of my favorite cities, but given I've lived in Canada myself before, I do love Canada. And welcome to the show, Neil.
Thank you. I love Australia. I've spent a
Yeah.
lot of time in Australia, so we'll call it even.
Yeah, right. Well, the fact you've got two little, well, I shouldn't say little, but two Aussie teenagers, hockey players living with you at the moment. I love that. It's a little bit of a 6 degrees of separation going on here.
Absolutely. Always I've got a lot of connected connections to Australia.
Yeah, I do love ice hockey as well. I actually have seen the Canadian Canuckies back in the day when I lived in Whistler. So yeah, that's probably another real Aussie thing as well, right, Neil? Like the fact that I went and saw the
It's
Canadian.
amazing. You didn't pronounce it exactly right, but it's okay.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, Neil, let's jump into it because we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics to be talking about. And I just absolutely love the fact that you're co-founder and managing partner at Storytime Capital, I should say. I actually am keen to understand where the Storytime name came from as well. And it's an early stage Canadian VC investing in, drumroll, the future of work. The future of work. It's such a profound subject, topic. Everyone's talking about it, and I'm intrigued. Previously, you co-founded Alaya Care, which is a home health SaaS, and you stepped back from day-to-day operations to launch Storytime, and it's pretty young, only in 2022. And Storytime announced a first close for Fund 2 of 14 million in June 25. So big congrats to you. Tell us a little bit about your journey. I've got huge amounts of questions, but tell us a bit about your journey. Why future of work? Interesting that you were in home health. It's kind of got a little bit of, I guess, feels like a bit of a connection when it comes to the future of work and health and sustainable wellness, etc. So yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, the decision to go future work seemed like the right, when you start a fund, you want you don't have to invest in a thesis, but I thought a thesis-driven fund made sense. And I put a lot of thought into what made sense. And at the end of the day, it was like, what do I understand the most of? And the way the world works is something I really understood. So from 12 years old on back, I'm pretty old enough that 12-year-olds had part-time jobs working like at a movie theater. So like I worked as a paper boy and when I was like 9, and then at 12 years old I started working at a movie theater and then other jobs and I started little companies, worked through university at like a convenience store selling cigarettes and slushies. So I really I understood the part-time labor world, then jumped into working at a tech company, watched it grow, watched it sell, and watched the culture at the company it sold to really ruin everything that was great about what made that first journey.
I've been
Then
there.
started my own company, and again we sold that company. It got then acquired by a bigger company, and again, great culture. Just like watching the difference between a 30-person company and a 300-person company. And then we started Alaya Care, three of us, and grow. It's still growing, around 700 employees. But watching that and watching acquisition, we acquired 5 companies along the way. Built dealing with COVID. I was actually in Australia on April, I think it was the 7th or 8th, and I was like, oh, I should probably fly home. I remember people were talking about toilet paper and worrying about that, and the first cases were hitting, and this was 2020. And so I flew 16 times to Australia. We've about 100 or so employees there from Alaya Care and lots of clients. And I never thought anything of the flight, but that flight home was like terrifying because every
Were
time
you in
someone
Melbourne
coughed,
or were you in Sydney?
I was in Sydney
Because Melbourne was the world's longest lockdown. In case
no, Australia was way from like being too worried about it. For the first like month, it was like we were freaking out in Toronto and Australia was pretty chill. And I was like, oh, I should have stayed in Australia. And then it was like the world's longest lockdown in Melbourne. But anyway, so we grew companies. I saw culture change, different forms of work. And really, the other element of it is WorkBrain. The first company I started at was a workforce management software company. Vortex was a mobile workforce software company. And AliaCare, despite the fact that it sounds like healthcare-y, if you ask a home care agency or organization what their number one concern is, it's always employees,
Yeah.
keeping and retaining employees and scheduling and staffing. And so, like, the problem of, I was actually solving employee centric problems for years and trying to figure out how to build and grow companies, and my own background of like working part time. I just found it, like, even walking into a restaurant, I find fascinating. So I had this really like deep connection to the concept of work. And then this other sort of concept I've had is like, in the history of work and tech, work has always, the technology has evolved, leading to um, evolution. Like, the technology innovation has led to evolution in the workforce. So historically, like Uber comes out, and all of a sudden, people weren't driving around in cars, taxis, but people weren't just jumping into random people's cars. Like, the gig economy didn't exist until technology created the
Totally.
foundation for really advanced gig economy. Same thing with like with Zoom, which was WebEx in 2000, like was the WebEx predated Zoom. Like, it changed the way we can meet, like how we're meeting now.
Totally right.
Before 2000, like, you couldn't do that. And so always these changes happen. And then all of a sudden, COVID changed everything in the work world and a generational shift. And we had this massive change to an entire generation and an expectation where all of a sudden the work world was evolving and the technology hadn't yet
Caught up.
been caught up. And I was like, whoa, this is probably something, an area that I want to invest in, because technology has to catch up to this. And it isn't just about like accommodating hybrid work. There's so many different things that we need to address. So I thought it was a really cool area to invest in, something I know well, that has for decades and generations constantly evolved. So it's a good one. And it's a good bet. Like, work is always a good place because there will always be people trying to work. It'll always be changing. So there's always the tools that we use to work will always be a good place to invest in.
So are you looking at all different facets and of the future of work when you're investing? Like you're not just
Yeah.
tech, but like I mean, like is it health, well-being? Like, yeah, because
We've seen everything. Like, I've seen literally everything: health, well-being, like mental health. We have literally in our portfolio, we've got a mental health platform. We have talent acquisition tool, candidate experience company. It's a great example of like future work. Is like when I started my first job in 2000, I literally just like applied, and I was tracked in that applicant tracking solution. That was that. Now, like, my 18-year-old daughter expects a candidate experience. So like investing in the journey, but it's not just HR tech and leadership tools and things like that. We've got a great Australian one that's about work design. Like, so it's really understanding Beamable. It's a company out of Melbourne, Sydney, focused on work design. But then we also have companies in general, B2B SaaS, if they're changing the way people are doing their work. So whether it's procurement or IP strategy, it's like people are fundamentally doing work differently with the help of AI. We're investing in that too. And the last sort of like pillar of our sort of three areas would be like the new work economy. So influencers, content creators, social media, like that. That's like, we've got a company that works on cyber for social media assets. So like a top 10 band in the world is one of their clients because they get bot farmed attacked every time they post about a concert and it's impacting their sales. Like, that's a real thing. But also, a baker in Arizona might only have, there's like 50 million, 17 million businesses in the States that only live on social media. Like, their entire new business side hustles are on social media. Like, that's the future of work, like is that. And so protecting that and enabling that is really powerful also.
what an interesting space to be in though and be playing in, right? Because it's almost like
Thank you.
it's like for me, it's a full holistic ecosystem, if you like, where you've got tech, you've got the new work economy, you've got health, well-being, you've got employee experience, all of it. Like, and when you think about it, it's like the individual, the leader, the team, the business, it's all interconnected. And there's so many different aspects of what work looks like, right? And it feels like
Yeah.
you're tapping into every aspect of an ecosystem where quite often we look at it in such a siloed way. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there are all these different pieces, and yet you're creating, or you've got an early stage, VC investing in what it all looks like together. So you must get a full bird's eye view of like, what the future of work is looking like and can look like. Do you get
Yeah,
asked quite often, what's your holistic view or what's your bird's eye view of, the future of work?
I do, and it's tough to sort of frame it in like a pinpoint answer.
Yeah.
I think about it all the time, and we really do see such a broad spectrum. And I think it's it would be a little too overzealous or overconfident for me to say this is what it's going to be,
Yeah.
because like it's redefining itself as quickly as it's defining itself. So I think there's going to be a few sort of key themes. Like one is the impact of AI. I think AI is going to change the way we do work. I use the analogy of the calculator and the computer all the time. So if you think back, it's a great movie. I hear it's also a book. I never like I know it's a book. I've never read the book, but it's a great movie called Hidden Figures, where the early space exploration was like manually calculated by these incredibly brilliant women. Well, the interesting part is when the calculator or
I have seen
computers
the
came
movie.
out, that yeah, when the computers came out, they didn't go home. They didn't like say, okay, well, we're done working. Like people are doing our job now. These computers are doing our job for us. They started innovating the way that flight and air travel happened. I think that's like we're on the dawn of that, where like smart, talented people will use the tools we have. I mean, we use it in our day to day today. We use AI tools today to make our jobs better and faster and more efficient. I think that's going to be a big thing. So I think that's going to be interesting. And the next theme is going to be completely opposite of that. But I think AI will allow the really talented minds to be even more like to go further with what they can do. So I think
Yeah.
that's pretty phenomenal. And then on the flip side, I think personal connections are going to be really key. And I talked earlier about the power of WebEx 25 years ago to change the way people sold. I think we're going to see a shift, like a tectonic shift in the way people connect and acquire and interact. Because it used to be um, we were in touch, and then email sort of replaced a lot of what we did, and then Zoom calls, but really a lot was relied on messages. Now I can't open my inbox. I have, and I mean, it's 9 o'clock here in Canada right now. I probably didn't look at my email since 6 o'clock, and I guarantee I have 9 emails. 8 of them are AI driven, and so like I don't take a lot of credibility when I see an email come in from an unknown source saying, "Oh, I've got a great deal for you to look at as a VC," because most likely I'm also getting one saying, "We've got great software engineers for you. I don't run a software company anymore. Why are you sending me that?" But it's just an AI bot sending me stuff. But if we like, I now know you, we've made a connection. If you call me or text me or WhatsApp me tomorrow and say, "I've got a great company I think you should look at," I'm 100% taking that meeting and looking at that company. And the same thing for buying software or
Mm.
any interaction. So I think the way people interact and expect business relationships to happen are going to be there's going to be a big like swing back the pendulum to you're not going to hire a million BDRs to try to drum leads that like dialing for dollars. I think there's going to be a real push for personal relationship business, which is the way it used to be,
Yeah, well,
like
getting to
way
know the
before my
person,
time.
like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And to know, is there a connection? Isn't there a connection? Like, even though we're, far away from each other, you can quickly pick
yeah,
up, even on a Zoom or a video call, whether there's a connection or not, can't you? You can tell if
exactly.
someone's present, if someone's actually interacting in the chat, or if they're just not there. And I pick up on that pretty quickly. I'm not sure about you, but like
Yeah,
intuitively, kind of
100%.
like, oh, they're not interested, or this is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And I'm good to call it out these days. I'm just like, you're wasting your time, I'm wasting my time. Let's just leave
Yeah.
it at that. And I
Today,
think,
I had a great call today that I ended in like 11 minutes, like a pitch, because I knew before we got to the request for them asking me for money, I knew that we were going to be way off on valuation. I just could tell from the way the call started that they were going to be asking for, um, you know, the moon. And I at about 10 minutes in, I was like, let's just can we jump to how much you're asking for and the value? And again, it was like it was a good call, great guys, and they're gonna do really well, but it's just there I knew there was a disconnect and I was able to, but like reading a pitch deck or getting anyways. But I think you're right. Like the connection and the ability to interact is going to be is so paramount. And then the last sort of big like the pillar on future work is also going to be like just the way people work and what they do is going to change. I sort of earlier alluded to a number that I was wrong. Like the real number, I think it's like the States has what almost 400 million people, 56 million people in the US have side hustles. So I think that's
It's
indicative
huge.
of like I've got three teenage daughters. I highly doubt all three of them will work 9 to 5 office jobs like I did after university. Like maybe two of the three, maybe all three will go to school, maybe not. Universities will change, like the concept of schooling will change, what's required. Will they do a trade? Like maybe they'll do a trade, and because trades are like an AI proof job. So like my 13-year-old super super into like makeup and art. She might be like an independent makeup artist, and there's like a big social media place for that and businesses you can build off of that. So I think
It's
that's like a
exciting.
really,
Don't you think
yeah,
it's
it's like
exciting? Like I think
it's
there's a lot of fear, obviously, with what's going on, and I'll be interested to also get your thoughts because there's a few from some of the various different pod interviews I've been having in the VC space. A few have talked to me about the fact that, with AI, the way it is at the moment and revolutionizing so much, but there's almost like this jumping on the AI bandwagon. And it's interesting you raised the point around the calculator and the computer. That was big innovation, right? And you would probably see this with your own business in terms of some of the companies coming to you where they've got an AI based idea or business, and a few of the investors VCs have said to me you can see which ones will kind of last a distance or not, won't necessarily last a distance, and they're part of this AI trend that's on the go right now. Like, do you have a view on that in with the lens of the future of work over the top of it?
yeah, I think I mean the one thing about the AI trend is there's a lot of it, and I think that I mean I remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe more, but it was like sometime in the last 5 or 8 years while I was at Ally Care building it out. Um, on the leadership team, I remember bringing a tool that I wanted to implement. So I'll get to the AI question in a
Yeah,
second,
no,
but
that's cool.
I remember bringing a tool to our team, and Adrian, CEO, like the co-founder, he was like, dude, we have 78 different SaaS tools that we are a SaaS company that spends all of our money on SaaS tools. Like SaaS tool for SaaS company, like all we do is have a million SaaS tools that we're using to build our SaaS company. We got to like tone it down. And I think there's a risk of that from an AI perspective for like if every single job unit has three different AI companions, so there's going to be I think that's a challenge. But on the flip side, I also see generic AI tools not being very effective. So I think very specific, powerful AI companions and tools will allow people to do their jobs really well. But then I see like AI for the sake of AI. I
Yeah.
don't see that going very far. And I think there's a lot of that. I mean, I probably get I think we did the like something like 50 decks a week, and probably 20 of them I could discount as AI for the sake of AI,
Yeah,
which
right.
is sad because it's like it's scary. Someone's putting their life on hold for 2, 3 years to build a company, take friends and family money, and they're building something that's AI for the sake of AI. I mean, I remember I've been in a demo where I just pull up ChatGPT and I challenge ChatGPT to give me the same output that they're giving me on the screen in the demo, and it's like the exact same.
Yeah,
So I'm like, you're just wrapping ChatGPT or
around
some
it.
other around it. That's not good enough. Like that's not. I mean, it's great for a company. It's not venture backable. You can't turn that into 100 million to $1 billion business.
Yeah, oh my God, I've got a couple of I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I've got a few questions, and
So whichever you want to
you
go.
seem like a guy that is. has standards, like, and everyone should, don't get me wrong, but like you have these set standards and it's like high performing. And there's a couple of things I want to play around with here, but in terms of your company, and you said I think you said you assess 50 different pitch decks a week. What's the standard that you're looking at from these founders? Again, a lot of the time I'm hearing that it's not necessarily about the product, it's more around about the founder, the person, who they are. Like what's your kind of standard criteria, if you like? Again, but also with obviously this future of work lens across the top of it. Is
Yeah, I
that
mean,
quite a good
it's got the
question
future
or
work. No, it's a great question. It's got to play in our domain, like, and really, it's got to play in our domain because we want to be. Our unique thing as a fund is I'm smart. I've got some good answers, but I'm not that smart, and I'm not. I don't have the best answers. But we have LPs and a network around us that are like the best of the best, and people that I grew up with in the B2B business, in the future of work business, in the work tech business, that from CFOs to CPOs to CMOs, whatever someone's asking, from leadership to product to marketing to engineering, like I can parachute the right person in, channel strategy. So I'm bringing the best in to these deals. So one, like the whole part of the other benefit of future work, it's an area that I know I can make a difference on. We
yeah,
only have so many checks to write. I want to be able to make a difference. So if I see a great company, great founders, great idea even, but I think I don't have any idea how I can help this company, we'll probably pass. We'll pass it to other people like we know and we love in the industry, but we'll probably pass because I only have so many checks to write. I want to be able to make an impact. On the flip side, the other side of that though is like, what do we look for? Um, it's less about, does this idea make sense? Does it have traction? And is it a guaranteed winner right now? It's important to have some of that stuff. That's great. But the bigger thing at the stage we're investing between 0 and 400K of annual revenue. I want to make sure that I'm investing in founders that I'm prepared to spend the next 5 to 10 years working with. And it means hard conversations, tears, rough moments, being part of their family, and but also, being part of the journey with them, but painfully telling them when they're doing things wrong. So, and it takes, like, there's a certain type of people you don't you want to be in that journey with. So I used to, like, at WorkBrain 20 years ago. One of the reasons that company was so freaking successful, it's this amazing Canadian tech story from the 2000s, was because they didn't worry about, oh, we need the best this person in the company. Nope. The entire strategy was hire the best, smartest people who fit culturally with our team
yeah.
in the world, and we'll fit them in. Like, 9/11 happened. This is how long ago this was. 9/11 happened, and our division was focused on, I was like entry level in partnerships, but all of a sudden, like, every major, the big five consulting companies that weren't worrying about small projects anymore because they were all in like panic mode with all their big clients due to 9/11. So our partnership division folded, and they moved, like, all of us were smart, talented people. So they just moved us into different departments, completely different roles. That's what you get when you have like really talented people. So I look for those kind of people. And back then we did this interview called this, like, the 6 hour in an airport interview. So one person would interview someone and be like, can you survive 6 hours in an airport with this person? Or would you
Oh, I
try
haven't heard
to,
that
like,
one before. I like it.
would you claw your eyes out after spending 5 hours? Like, could you make 6 hours with this person? Because that's the kind of people you want to work with. And that doesn't mean they have to be your mirror and into all the same interests, but like, could you have a beer and sit around a restaurant or an airport lounge for a day while waiting for a plane? That's who you want to invest in, which
Like,
goes back to coachability, like all those other things that you look for. Like, I'm inevitably going to coach them and tell them stories and advice and all those things. If I can't sit for 6 hours with them, boring them, then and vice versa, then it's not going to be a win.
yeah, I see it as like like the term values feels to me so overused. So I look at it like in terms of attitude and behavior. You certainly need values, but how do you put them into action? And then how do you get that energy, attitude, and behavior coming out? So it's really interesting. When you booked in for the pod, I asked what's one unique insight, experience in life or investing, and you said empathy is often overlooked. It's quite interesting what we're talking about right now. And he said, but absolutely critical to the founder journey. before I get you to answer that, this builds into it as well. I haven't asked this question before, and you might just roll your eyes and go, "What is she talking about?" But who needs thicker skin? You or the founder? Like I haven't like who like or is it both? Like because you're in this relationship and then the empathy piece is often overlooked, what you talked about. Can I roll that
I
all into the
think
one response?
no, no, I think that's a great question. I think the founder needs really thick skin.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay for the founder to be really vulnerable and let the investor in to their like deepest, darkest moments to be like, hey, I'm scared of this. I'm fearful of this. I think that's one, it's like a little bit of our advantage because I lived it. Like I've had two
Yeah.
startups, technically three with WorkBrain. Like I've been down that road for over 2 decades. So while I still feel like I'm a 25-year-old in my brain, I have had 25 years of those experiences to share. So I've lived all of the horror stories. So I think the founder needs to have thick skin because I think um, not just with the investor, but in life,
100%.
it's a rough journey, and if you don't have resiliency, you're not going to survive. I was just talking about this yesterday, actually, with a friend of mine in this space. But there's like I always say, oh, we got lucky. We didn't get lucky. There's like a tremendously disproportionate amount of bad luck to good luck on the founder journey. Like most days aren't great. Most days things aren't. Your engineering team is slow, or there's a bug in the product, or you lost a sale, or your internal champion left the business or isn't returning your call. Like there's hard days. This is not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. So if there's this like bell curve that's really slanted to the bad luck stuff, um, you got to one be really resilient so that you can't let those bad luck days scare you at all. And the good luck days, you got to jump on those. You got to embrace those. You got to celebrate those. You got to really like cherish them, and you got to take advantage of them every opportunity you can. So I think the thick skin applies to the founder more than anything, and it's got to be like from day one. If you're going to start a company, you better be ready for mostly bad days.
Yeah.
Like mostly not bad days. Bad days is maybe a bad way to describe it, but like rough days.
I'd say rough
Um,
days. Like it's like, I live near the bay and it's like when you go to the walk to the bay and then on the some days the water is so choppy and you're like, and then the next day it's like calm. It's like I always look at it and go, oh yeah, today was one of those days. Or oh no, today I'm
yeah.
feeling good. Like you're constantly having to dig deep. You're having to really sense check yourself. Not letting the amygdala mess with you and tell you that it's all just going to go fail and, versus keep going. Another question, future of work, and you seem like you're, sporty background, obviously the hockey, etc. Talk to me a little bit about active recovery because like and what I mean by that is like, the future of work isn't about, hustle, hustle, and even what you were talking about with your daughters, and even from a founder perspective, you can't keep pushing. Like it's just impossible because you're going to burn out. You're going to exhaust yourself, right? How important do you think it is in terms of the founder making sure that they're ensuring they have those micro breaks or they have on those really bad days, they have that ability to step away and just go, do you know what? I need to just step away, get a fresh perspective, whether that's take a walk with your dog, do whatever, go have an infrared sauna. Like, how important is it? Versus just the
Um,
continuous grind because you can just keep grinding and founders can get very easily caught up in that.
yeah. So I have a few like competing thoughts on that. One is not to plug one of our companies, one of our Australian companies in our portfolio, but Beamable. It's a great company
What's it
out
called?
of Australia, and
Sorry.
Beamable, because it's their whole focus is if you design work for everyone in this organization, and part of it is like the stuff that you love to do. It's very hard to burn out if you love doing something like a specific task. So if there's 400 hours of tasks in a week and you can design it in a new modern world where it's not like this person does spreadsheets and this person's doing our copy for our website and this person's doing that and that's all they do. But if you can sort of split it up in a way where, or sorry, rather, this person does all of marketing, this person does all of finance, but maybe there's like the work is to be designed. So you're actually assigning work accordingly to what people like, what beams them up, what like what's
Yeah, like
their
it.
burnout is really minimized right off the bat. So like understanding what the purpose is and understanding and it being what people love working on, it greatly reduces the threat of burnout. Now, that's not so easy when you're a co-founder because you have to do so many jobs. So that goes back to the empathy and also I actually loved the term active recovery because for me, when I was starting Ally Care, I was huge at the time and I dipped. I'm now getting back into it, but huge into fitness, like running half marathons, ran a marathon, like half Ironman, like so into it. And that was my escape. Like I would just be able to burn off that nervous energy. And whether it was 45 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes, whatever length my workout was, I would just turn everything off and just run. I actually don't run with like headphones. So I listen to music, just like my own sounds, my own thoughts, my own strategy. But often then when I was traveling for work, would go running with other people. So I still remember our first ever actually go live, me and our like project core manager on the project for Care, like we drove and met. It was supposed to be like Sunday, 6 o'clock was the starting shift. So I was like, let's meet at 4 o'clock and go for a run before like all hell breaks loose the next week. And we did. And it was so like, it cleared us mentally and ready to go. So I think that's really important, whatever your thing is, whether it's meditation or exercise, family time. Like I really try to also, when I started Care, 11 years ago. So my kids would have been uh, two, 5, and 8. Really still like balanced a lot of family time. It didn't sacrifice it. I sacrificed it like later in the nighttime, sacrificed watching football on Sundays, things like that a little bit, but I was like not at the sake of family. So I think that was another big
Yeah.
anchoring that I think matters for founders. Like it shouldn't come at the expense of your family because that's you won't get that back. But then the last is we like you alluded to, and I know if you I don't know if we want to ask after, but empathy is so important. I think empathy between co-founders.
Mm.
First of all, I think just generally a co-founder, like the best recipe for not burning out would be having co-founders so you can balance each other out. So it's not just one person. And then the other part of that is having empathy between each other
Yeah.
because that models that behavior for everyone in the company. So if you have empathy between each other, you're going to be able to like absorb their pain, their rough moments, and
It's that yin
really,
and yang.
exactly. And when they're up, you're down. When you're down, they're up, kind of thing. I think I just said the
No,
same
I get
thing.
it. I totally
Anyway,
get it.
you
I
get my
just,
point. I think
yeah.
that becomes really powerful. That's why I said empathy. Like, and we actually we look for that in meetings. Like I had a married couple pitch to me. So you think that'd be the most empathy of any relationship?
Ugh.
And he cut like she was the CEO, he was not. He cut her off every time she spoke. I was like, I don't know if they've like there's empathy here. Like they're married, they've got like a union, but I think they're lacking actual empathy for each other. So even though like that's the one that should have been the highest scoring on empathy, we look for like the little cues and the little signals, how they speak to each other, how they speak about each other, how they engage. And that usually leads to success. And without it, I really think I think it's like it's like a 0 or 1. If you don't have that empathy for each other, you really can't build a venture backable business.
No,
Um,
I would agree. I totally agree. It's empathy, and yet it's been a word or a term that has been so like, oh, it's like vulnerability, right? Like you can't show your vulnerability, keep the mask on. You have to operate this way. You have to go out. It's like, who says? Like, I think the more you're your unique, authentic self, and obviously there's within reason and times when you're pitching or whatever, and you do need to put that, that presentation, kind of. I won't use the word mask, but you know what I mean, on it's still having that ability to be your true authentic self where if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. If just understanding if someone else is asking questions, actively listening, it's all of that, right? It's really being able to, it's back to your point around personal connection. Sorry, I have one final question for you because I appreciate it is late for you, and I'm very privileged to be talking to you at this time of night. I don't know if I'd be getting on a pod. No, I probably would actually. But what do you see as the future of VC? Like, is it like where do you see it's at? Like, you've been in the game for quite a long time. You've obviously been a founder as well.
Yeah.
Where is the VC ecosystem at this point in time? Or is that too
It's
big a
really
question?
interesting. Like there's all these like this evolution in everything's evolving, right? And companies don't need billion like we raised hundreds of millions of dollars at AlayaCare and have 700 or so employees. I mean, I think if we were to build AlayaCare again, you could build it with a fraction of the employees, 100, 200 employees. Therefore, we don't wouldn't have needed as much funding along the way. Now we made a lot of acquisitions that balances it. So I think there's going to be a shift potentially in later stage funds on what they're funding. Are they funding like scale up growth at that point? Are they taking early stage VCs like us off the cap table? Therefore, how does that change us? So our early stage funds, do we need to look at our model differently? We invest with a position that if we get 100 to 200 million dollar exit with the company, that's a massive win. That's our goal. We don't invest with like the it has to be a unicorn, it has to be $1 billion, otherwise it's a failure. We obviously want that, but we model it out that if we get multiple 100 to 250 million dollar exits, that's big wins. That's a big like return for our investors based off of the just a lot of the way we strategize our ownership percentage and the valuations, et cetera. So, but that we're set up for that. We're set up for a world where we do think that a lot of our really strong companies they'll get to their Series B, and it won't. They're like, we don't need $50 million to hire 600 developers. We don't need that. So what we can do is we can take care of Storytime Capital and some of our angel investors and our pre-seed and seed investors, clear them off the cap table. You get ownership and you've got the guidance to take us to the next level. So I think that change knocks down to us. We're setting ourselves up for that, and that's kind of the approach. I think there's going to be a shift in that way, and then hopefully there's just a shift in general too. And I'm seeing like the value the VCs were on our journey at AlayaCare is the reason I went into be a venture cap, like a capitalist. I think that's going to be the big shift. There'll be more and more of us out there where we're not just trying to write a check, but trying to write really smart money checks where
Yeah,
we're
I like
trying to
it.
help them and make a major impact.
Yeah, I like this whole major impact, and obviously smart money is smart. I was going to ask you about the name of Storytime, but I've probably run out of time. But yeah,
You can. It's fine. I mean, it's simple. This story
last
is so
word.
important. Yeah, it's like the stories are like I'm a big believer of stories. Obviously, you are too on this awesome podcast. Big believer of
Thank you.
stories. The story matters the most. And the last, like, it's a multi-part name. The other part is like we want as a fun. We don't want to be like a chapter in some podcast or book on how I built this. 7 years from now. We just want when we're hearing the story, we want to be like we were there. We were like when that decision was made. We helped with that decision. We just want to be part of the story in
I
some
love
way.
it.
We don't want to write the story. We just want to be part of the story.
Love it. And I love that you are playing a major part in the story of the future of work. It's very cool. So, Neil, how do we find out more about Storytime Capital? How do we get more words of wisdom from you? Like, you've got a lot to share. Tell us how we find
I
out
don't,
more.
I don't know if there's any wisdom from me. If you believe so, that's for you. You can find me on LinkedIn. Neil Grunberg on LinkedIn, and find us on the web, storytime.capital. Uh, Pretty simple. That's it. We toyed with having our own podcast with the future of work. Never got around to doing it. At some point, I should. But yeah, no, we're. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think the future of work podcast would be very cool. There's so much that you could share into.
I'll have you on as a guest
Yeah, I'd
when I
love
do it.
that. Yeah, I do. I do love a chat.
9 p.m. your time then.
Yeah, 100%. Easy. Yeah. No, I'll be there, with all the time difference. But Neil, thank you so much. It's been a real joy talking to you. Wishing you utmost success, and thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, B.
No, thank you.